Really sobering and also enlightening. I work at the Urban Institute. We work on a lot of these topics. I know you have questions, but I feel like I want to do a little bit of summarizing first, if you'll allow me to. So I don't know if I allow each of the presenters to pick their own key highlight. We might choose different ones, so you can take that up with me later. But we heard about from Dr. Tyler the importance of building trust, right? And you know, Tom, we're friends. We work together quite a lot. You know, I feel like you were talking about it as, you know, the importance of the community trusting the police, but I know that you know it's a two-way street. And one key mechanism is that concept of procedural justice, which is really important in getting community members to cooperate with the police, as you said, and to collaborate. And that collaboration is important because if they're really collaborating with the police, then they're helping prevent crime, and that makes us all safer. I really appreciate that point. And of course, that's mainly through the mechanism of training the police. But as Professor Futterman notes, it's also important to listen to the people who are most likely to experience policing and bias policing and high crime communities. And so I really appreciate his focusing on the lived experiences, particularly of youth. And one important point that he made, he's gone now, is the fact that you can have individual officers that are procedurally just and you can still not have trust in the police. And that much rests on holding officers accountable and for departments to be transparent and open with their data and open with their body camera videos and so forth. And then the chief underscores this point and talks about the importance of transforming the culture within the agency. Again, it's not important just to have individual officers behaving in a respectful and unbiased manner, but you have to really transform that agency inside and out. You also focused on authentic partnerships with the community, which I really appreciated, and with strategic partnerships with other agencies. And several people referenced how so much falls on the shoulders of police, all the ills of society. And so, you know, your example of the Yale Kennel Study Team and how you took that and implemented it in Providence, I think is a good example of the police partnering with other folks in the community that can help mitigate those harms. And then we heard from Dr. Dudley about the repeated trauma that kids experience residing in high crime communities. Again, referencing a lot of the ills of society, but also how that trauma can really kind of snowball in a way that creates so much more harm, and that these harms are really deep-seated. And it reminds me of a story that a colleague of mine who grew up in the south side of Chicago in some of these very same neighborhoods told me. He later went to the University of Chicago and then worked with high school students from that same community. And he shared with me that when there's a change in weather in the summer, when it gets distinctly warmer, his kids said, you know, uh-oh, here it comes. And they experience, I think, what's akin to PTSD or anxiety, because they know someone we know is going to be shot. That change in the weather is a trigger for them. And that's not just a one-time seasonal event. You know, weather fluctuates. So every time the temperature rises, it gets a little bit more humid. They're wondering who's going to die. And it could be them. And that leads them to take on their own protective actions, which might include carrying a weapon because that's what they need to do to feel safe. Bring in policing, and including bias policing, and they're more likely to be apprehended with that weapon, which leads to the one thing I wanted to contribute that hasn't really been addressed head on, is the issue of incarceration and mass incarceration, and the fact that we have a tremendous racial bias in who ends up behind bars, And that in itself is a whole nother form of trauma. So you gave me the soapbox, sorry, but I felt like I had to at least do a little summary here. But I don't want to do any more at the risk of taking time away from Lamontre Randall, who I got to chat with a little bit before we started this panel, and I know he has a lot to share that also describes the lived experiences that I think are so important for this conversation. So I'm
it's to a point where when police drive by, my armpits itch every time. But I'm tasked with the role of bridging the gap and making sure I hold accountable not only the police department, but community members as well. So everything I say comes from me being the chair of the Baltimore Police Youth Board, me seeing within the police department what's going on, my work in the community, ride-alongs with officers, and surveys on the ground with community residents. So, once again, my name is Lamontre Randall. My background, I studied criminal justice at University of Maryland College Park, minored in Asian American Studies. Why Asian American Studies? Everyone always asks that. I thought it was important for me to recognize the similarities that we had within different cultures. And that played a major role with me not only being a bridge gapper on campus, but also a bridge gapper here in life today between the police and the community. I'm also a trained police mediator, which means when police and community members have conflicts, I'm the person that serves the neutral party and helping resolve the conflict. I'm also serve as the board of director member for Baltimore City Community Mediation, which is one of the only orgs highlighted specifically within the consent decree. I'm a consultant with the BMO Group, and what our role is, we play a role as major facilitators between institutions and government agencies and those who are underserved and underserved. And we also play a role in creating inclusive community engagement events that help community members see officers behind the badge and officers see community members as trusted members within society. Now I'm speaking on my chair as being the chair of the Baltimore Police Youth Board. It was started because of the uprising that happened in Baltimore. The police department recognized they needed more of the youth voice within the police department. They brought me in and they elected me as chair. I think everyone respected my unique perspective of being on the ground and understanding the community. And the police department actually recognized that, look, we need somebody that understands the community. We need someone that like you. And we hope that you continue to serve, and they wanted to put me in a certain position. So within this, I'm gonna talk about the top 3 things that I think we need to do in order for us to keep pushing for better policing. One is community engagement. The second is transparency. And the third one is inclusiveness. The first part, community engagement. The police department need to be able to reach the people where they are. Creating engagement in a manner that helps people understand those behind the badge and helping officers see community members as respectful people and not always suspects. What happens a lot of times is the officers are constantly going on calls, and it's in black communities. And what happens with that, it triggers in your mind, and brother will tell you, this psychologist will tell you, it's something that comes with you constantly getting a call and seeing that the suspect is constantly black. In terms with that, you're going to start looking at all black people in that way within the community. Then also, we're going to touch on transparency. Transparency. Community members want to know what is going on. They want to feel empowered. They want to know where their tax dollar investment is being allocated. Is it being allocated appropriately or is it not? Thirdly, is inclusiveness. Inclusion should be a measure, not a goal. That's where we mess up at. We think it's a goal. It's really a measure. We have to ensure voices are included in the decision-making process. This will help with building trust within the community. Right now, we're not seeing trust because the people feel as though they're not included within the process of creating better policing. So, I'm going to break down the consequences of not doing the work. If we don't do them three things, we're going to have a higher level of mistrust. We're going to have lower levels of police recruitment of community members. And the reason why I pointed that out is because within Baltimore, we don't have a strong number of residents who are police officers. And in turn, you got officers that don't understand the community. So you got officers that don't understand that these children are outside on the block, not because they're doing negative things, because we closed all the rec centers in Baltimore. So you got to understand that background. And also, lower percentage of call-ins from community members and reporting to harmful criminals. Community members are not going to call the police if they feel as though they're scared of the police. That's point blank, period. If I'm scared of the police, I'm going to call my brother, my cousin when something else goes wrong, not the police officer. And that's what we've been seeing is a constant thing that's happening now within the community. Also, last but not least, an uprising. If people feel hopeless, if community members feel as though they don't have a voice, they feel as though they're not part of the process, and they feel as though the police department really don't care, their community members, especially those who do not understand the politics and the structure and how to be involved, will go to a stage of hopelessness where they'll feel as though only way to get their viewpoint across is through uprising. So that's what I wanted to point out. Hope everyone enjoyed what I pointed out, and thank you.